Well, I took a break from the Jeeps and organized the workbenches a little bit. Yes, this is more organized. And decided to start working on the 2510s again. 2510 / Lincoln. And I've got 10 microprocessor boards and a lot of them don't work. Well, one of them that didn't work today now works. I have one good chassis. Everything works on it, so I'm testing all of the microprocessor boards. So this one, I was using this terrific, it's called the Blue ESR tester. I was using it for checking capacitors to see if they're any good. And this board, some of the capacitors had much lower values than the other ones I was comparing it to, which I don't remember which ones I was using. But I have an original board that's never been touched, so I was kind of comparing the values of each capacitor. And this board kept coming up lower and lower, and there was this one cap, lo and behold, that was really low. So I pulled it out, checked it with the fluke, and the value's correct. Checked it again with the ESR tester, it's also okay. And I kept saying to myself, the negative goes toward the can. See, there's a can, a tunable can right next to it. I said negative to the can, negative to the can. Well, that capacitor, turns out it was in backwards. That's why I wrote BW on it. See there, BW. Anyway, it was in backwards. And that made this radio work. So now we have two boards. We have this one and one other that are in perfect operating order. And I've got one perfect chassis that works good. This chassis, it says no display, and I scratched that out, and now the display works due to some work I did to it, but there's still no transmit modulation. The TX symbol on the display comes up, but there's no modulation coming out of it. The other one that's in the same exact position, I said no RF output. Well, that's the same thing. The receive on both of them work fine, so there's something wrong in the, it's not the finals, they're not shorted or anything, but somewhere in that circuitry it's not transmitting. So we've got one perfect one and two that are, you know, over halfway there. And I've got two processor boards to support the 3 radios, so I need another one, and then I'll have 3 radios, 3 2510s. Now this one is a 2510, that one's a Lincoln, and that one's a Lincoln. So two Lincolns and a 2510. But I think somebody recapped this one, because that cap, half the solder pad was missing on one side. So somebody had been in there before. So I flipped it around, resoldered it, and man, this thing woke right up. This thing used to squeal. This board used to have a squeal to it once in a while when you key up, and that's all gone. So it was part of an oscillator circuit. It wasn't part of, it wasn't filtering or anything. So anyway, somebody's been in this one and they missed the fact that they got it backwards. So I went over a whole bunch of boards looking for more caps that were backwards, and I didn't find any. But I'll tell you, getting another board working is great. So I put my notes on the processor. The other most important thing this time around is I take notes on every test I do. 18 months ago, when I quit doing this because my health took a real crap on me, I was trying to remember everything, and I found out the hard way that doesn't work. I was forgetting everything. Every test I did, I didn't know what processor boards worked. I didn't know what chassis units worked. I was lost. So I just buttoned it all up and walked away. And I don't know what happened last night. I was just kind of bored. I came in here and started testing, and all I did was I kept swapping out processor boards. Actually, on this unit here, I kept swapping them out and testing them, make notes about what was wrong with it, and kept track of the current draw on the current limiting power supply. And you know, I've got a whole bunch of them tested. There's a whole bunch that need to be tested, but anyway, I'm thrilled to death. This is really great. Now, if I can just get these other two chassis that get them to transmit, we would be in good shape. And it's not the finals; they're fine. So it's between the finals and the rest of the circuit that drives all that. So some of these, I'm not sure why. Like this one, the notes. This is from 18 months ago. The 5-volt rail was okay. The 8-volt rail was okay. It pulls a 1/10 of an amp. Just this board does at 13.8 volts. Broken crystal. Yeah. See that white solder mask right there? That would look just like this crystal here. But it's busted off. And that one's busted off too. So there's, I've got one board here somewhere that I could steal the crystal off of, because somebody butchered this poor board and took the processor off. So I believe this board will be used for parts. So it's got a 22 megahertz crystal there and 10.2 something on this side. So I'll see if I can get any of these other boards to wake up. See if I can get them to work. You know, they're not pulling excessive current from the notes I left on them. This one, for instance, 0.0 amps. It doesn't function at all. Why? I don't know, and right now it's too early to care. So, I don't know. We'll figure it out another time. This one here says 0.06 amps, but it's missing the 5-volt regulator. Somebody took it out. So I think this one here, yeah, it's got a factory 5-volt regulator in it. So, you know, there's parts to go around. I don't even know. There's 11 of these processor boards. Let's see what else. Display worked, 5 volts okay. Oh, this one's got a different 5-volt regulator. I must have replaced that back a while ago. So I don't know what's wrong with this one, but it doesn't work. Anyway, so the display, I don't know, I can't even read my own notes. It doesn't even make sense. It says display. 5 volts okay now. Well, okay, did the display work or not? That matters. The symptom of most of these boards is the display won't turn on. It lights up that there's no graphics on it. That's really common. Okay, here's one. Read that. 0.09 amps. That's just this board on 13.8 volts, no display. 5 volts okay, 8 volts okay, no transmit, no receive. Microprocessor crystal okay, which is this one right here. It's actually an oscillator, but that's okay. We'll call it a crystal. And number 4, this is the 4th one in my test. I have just 4 I've tested, and I've numbered them 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I think it's here's the odd thing. I've got one right here that's a real cherry looking board, but it's got an extra chip up here that none of the others have. And it says good on it. That's a note from 18 months ago, and yet it won't work. It'll give me a bar graph but no transmit and receive. So why I wrote good on it 18 months ago, I don't know. I don't know because I didn't write it down. So this board is a little different than the rest. So I don't know if it's older or newer or what the story is. It's got a different processor in it as well. So who knows? Anyway, I wrote good on it for a reason. Maybe it worked in one of these radios. Oh, here's the processor. Oh, God. Oh, butchery, man. I'll bet you $100 you didn't know for sure if it worked or not, so he ripped it out, which means the board's ruined. So, anyway, so like this one has no current draw at all, which is pretty weird because I think I checked the regulators. They were putting out 5 volts and 8 volts. But 0.00 amps, it didn't draw any current at all. So this one needs a little help. It looks original, it's dusty because it sat in here for a long time. Now a couple of these from the past, somebody else's past, not mine, drew a big X on it, drew a really big X on it. Maybe that's why the crystals are gone, because they needed them to try on something else, you know. So anyway, these need some work and some testing, so I know, you know, their relative value in the scheme of things. Because if I can't get any more of these bases done, then we got to decide if we're going to sell these or what. I'd rather not. I'd rather put them in anti-static bags and stash them away. Well, anyway, so we've got 2 good boards. And they are numbers. The top of my list here says number processor board 2 and 3. Okay, so this one is 3. And what's this? Oh yeah, this is 2. So this processor board works, and I just put it over in this radio to test it, and still from 18 months ago no RF out, and currently no RF out. The receive works okay, sorry. So that's alright. It's something's going on with it. So that one has the same problem as this one, and you know, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. At least the chassis, you know, work mostly. They're not banged up. They look nice. The Lincolns looked extra nice, so I think they weren't in circulation very long. But anyway, this one works fully and completely, and that makes me really happy. That gives me a basis for testing. I can keep swapping out boards, which is a huge pain in the butt, but you know, I'm making progress. I've only got 4 boards I'm using for swap right now. What I'm trying to do is come up with a way. If I hook my power, my current limited power supply, I hook the ground here, and to this pin right here I hook the 13.8 volts, and that's the input to this regulator and that regulator. So the whole board's powered. And oh yeah, see, somebody took the connectors off of this one, so they must have figured it wasn't working. But you know, a lot of people don't troubleshoot to this level of detail because it's a serious pain in the butt. So this one's got some parts missing, but that doesn't mean it can't be, you know, can't be fixed. Who knows what's wrong with it? It's got a crystal missing and 2 of these. So, you know, this becomes a lower priority board because it's already got some savagery done to it, you know. But there's enough parts here to make stuff work. So we'll get to that. If I can get these bases fixed, we're going to have 3 running radios. And that'll make me very happy, because there is a ton of radios to get to in this place. But these 2510s, these Lincolns, they just, I don't know, man, they really trip my trigger. Sorry, that's corny, but that's how I feel about it. The only thing I can't stand about them is a color display and the angle. You can't be very far away to read it, or you can't read it. It sucks. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, from here I can't read that. I have to come down, 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 down. You have to get the angle right. Ugh. See that? Now you can see it. I can't stand that. It just drives me crazy. So anyway, let's see. Is everything turned on? Breaker, breaker, breaker. Okay. Breaker, yeah. That's busting out over 15 watts peak. I don't know what's normal for these, but they're all working. Okay. They're all doing about the same output. They sit around a watt or watt and a half, and you know, they spike pretty good. So anyway, I don't know if that's normal or not. I've got some Cobra Nut 29s that do way better than that, but you know, who knows? These things are 30 years old. They all say right on them 1988. You read that? right above that oscillator, 1988. All these boards say that. Well, that makes them exactly 30 years old this year. That's pretty old for radios. So capacitors dry out, you know, screwdriver gurus get their butts in there and screw shit up. Oh, even worse, solder guys that can't solder. Oh man. So a lot of stuff happens, and it's to go backwards through it is a lot of work. In fact, if I fix somebody else's mistakes, I usually charge double for it. Anyway, that's where we're at. Lots of, I can't believe I've actually done this in the last 2 days. It's amazing. I'm a little bit shocked. I keep wondering what's wrong with me. I'm having success. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I'm getting goofy and stupid more than usual. It's time to go to bed. See you, bye.